Good evening and welcome to the Drive at 5 on intellectual.com/iHeartRadio station. I'm your host, Roman. We have a good show planned for you today, but first, the forecast from our intellectualradio.com weather center. Today, cloudy, mist that can turn sun. Guess what? The temperature will be only 13 degrees and it's expected to be an advisory out there as well. So it's going to be cold. So, and it's the temperature is supposed to dip tomorrow night. Wednesday, cloudy and a 30% chance of a shower, a little bit warmer, high near 40 degrees. Thursday, sunny and pleasant, high 42 degrees. And Friday, looks like this. Saturday, cloudy with a chance of flurries that could turn into snow, high 41 degrees. Sunday, sunny and warm, high 42 degrees. The Drive at 5 is also part of the Monday night lineup, starting with Becoming Dateable at 11 a.m. Battle Talk at noon. One Sister to a Black Leadership Coalition at 7 p.m. The Great Entrepreneurs at 8 p.m. And The Chronicles of Rom at 9 p.m. The Drive at 5 is also part of the fabulous 5 at 5, only on IntellectualRadio.com. Tonight, my guest is the one and only an Emmy-winning journalist and former ABC7 Chicago, as well as CBS News anchor. Now he has a new communication company that's debuting as we speak. Please give a Drive at 5 welcome to Rob Johnson. Welcome to Drive.
Oh, it's so great to be at ABC. I got there in 98. You got there in 01. We worked together for, I guess, 8 years.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that, though.
Yeah, but now are they allowed to know that now?
Yeah, they do.
Okay, well, they do. They do now.
Please give intellectualradio.com/iHeartRadio station your background.
Well, my background is when I grew up in St. Louis. I went to high school in Brussels, Belgium, which was a great experience. Going to high school overseas was Castle, Indiana, not Deep Hall on the north side in Lincoln Park, and got a communications degree. Did a semester off campus. Fell in love with the TV business when I had a chance to work at the Washington Bureau of CNN, and there was always something incredible going on, and I also have a love for politics, and that's when I realized, hey, I think I want to do this TV thing. And so I did a couple of other internships, started my career in Louisiana, then moved to my parents moved to Arkansas 30 years ago plus, and so I spent a year half of my career in Little Rock, then moved to Houston, Texas. And for the last 21 years, I've been in Chicago and recently left CBS back in March. So I've had a TV career of about 28 years and the last 21 in Chicago. And now I'm doing communications consulting, which has been a brave new world for me. I have clients. I'm helping them with media training and executive coaching and crisis management and marketing and branding and all sorts of things. I'm going to dip into some corporate videos here pretty soon. I'm pretty sure of that. And also just helping with communication strategy, helping executives be their best communicators, both internally to their employees, but also outward facing externally to stakeholders, to the media, to the public, that sort of thing. So that's what I've been doing the last few months. And I also became a partner in the CMO division of a company called Tech CXO. And so what they do is they have fractional and part-time and project-based leadership that they can provide to bigger companies. And I'm a communications specialist. There's not a lot of guys or ladies at Tech CXO doing what I do. So I have two paths right now. I have Rob Johnson Communications, which is keeping me pretty busy, and Tech CXO, which is also keeping me busy, but it's communications consulting now. So it's a little bit different than what I grew up doing or what I did until less than a year ago.
A lot of people want to know this question, so I'm going to hit you with it.
Sure.
What happened at CBS? Because you were the main anchor there for a long time, and all of a sudden, bam, you're gone. Well, I know the legalese about it, but a lot of people just curious what happened at CBS. Your ratings when you was there, and you did a solo news 10 p.m. newscast at 10 p.m. It boosted up their ratings. and then they wanted to transition to
Yeah, and that single anchor show did very well for several years, and then it was like, all right, we want to broaden our appeal, and so they brought in a female co-anchor. That's when they brought back Bill and Walter, Bill Curtis and Walter Jacobson, which was a joy to have them in our newsroom, and that sort of thing. And then, as time went on here, I think the economics of the business sort of indicated that, maybe I was making, they would like me to, and so that was it. They never really said why. I can just assume that that was part of it, and I had a decision to make. Do I want to stay in the business? And I looked around, and I had my agent looking around, and there were a couple of opportunities, but as we speak right now, there was nothing at the time that was really intriguing or appealing. And all of a sudden, I'd say, well, I'm going to go get a corporate job, and that's a tough road to hoe too, because you have to, if you're not in corporate America and you're like, hey, I want to go be in corporate America, there's lots of people that are applying for top level jobs that have been in that race for a long time. So communications consulting started coming up. I started getting a client here and a client there, and opportunities kept, presenting themselves. I'm like, no, I need a regular job with a regular paycheck and all this kind of thing. And the communications consulting opportunities just kept popping up. And finally, I'm like, I think this is what I'm supposed to be doing right now. And I'm enjoying it immensely. It's a totally different rhythm than going to work in a suit with your makeup on every day, reporting from the same place. But I would just say this about TV. You never know what's going to happen. But at this time in my life, this is what I'm committed to. This is what I'm interested in. And I've had a great time doing it. And TV provided a wonderful opportunity for me and my family for many years. So I have nothing but good things to say about it, even though that time passed.
Chicago is near and dear to your heart.
Indeed.
What is so special about Chicago that is near and dear, not only to you, but your whole family? You basically said that, Little Rock, you jump place to place to place, and you're like, hey, I love it here. Your son loves it here. Your wife loves it here. You're a known commodity here. What made you say, you know what, I'm just going to tough it out. I'm going to stay?
Well, it was pretty easy because I asked everybody in my household, my 14-year-old son Jaden and my wife Stacy, what they wanted to do, and they were like, we want to stay in Chicago. And I'm like, hey, me too. That makes three of us. There's only three of us, so the three of us said we wanted to stay here. And it's near and dear to our hearts because when you first get here, most people that live here are from here. I'll give you an example. Like when I moved to Houston back in the mid 90s, it was a really easy place to make friends because 70% of the people at that time were not from Houston. So a lot of people were in the same boat. You come in like, oh, you're not from here. Oh, I'm not from here. Hey, you don't know anybody. I don't know. And that's how you build up your friend group. Chicago is different because so many people who live here are from here. So it's a little harder to make friends at first. But once you find your group, the people that you like to be with, and you get into a rhythm there, you have friends for life. You have people that are committed and dedicated and appreciative of who you are and what you do. And, my family and I are very involved in charitable work. And so that's how I sort of, got to know the community well, going out and doing charitable work. And now I serve on 3 boards. I do charity work for people with disabilities. I have a brother, Edward, who's Down syndrome, who is almost 48 actually, and that's just something my family before I got married and had a kid did, and it's something that my family does now that I have my own family.
Explain to us your new journey. What inspired you to just say, you know what, this is me now? Because you explained off air that the schedule, a lot of people don't know in television unless you're behind the scenes like I was. Yeah. Like you walk in there and you stay there. Yeah. Sometimes it could be 16 hours, 18 hours, sometimes 20 hours. This one is a new feel for you. So explain that.
Well, the thing that attracted me about consulting was that I had all this experience from all my years in television, from being on the side of watching people do it right, watching people do it wrong, and knowing the right way and the wrong way to communicate with people, no matter who you are, whether you're a boss of some company, whether you're a person that's running a not-for-profit, whatever the case may be. I saw the good, the bad, and the ugly. And so I thought, and I've always had a sort of giving heart and wanted to help people, and helping people get better at something, or helping people achieve their goals or whatever they are, was really attractive to me. And so I thought, well, let me give this a try and see how it goes. And so I started it, and I really got a lot of satisfaction. Company work on an overseas purchase of a plant. Having spent time overseas, I understand how things work internationally pretty well. There were also some union issues that went on at this particular place, and obviously being in a union city like Chicago, being in SAG-AFTRA, the talent union for all these years, I had some background about how labor relations worked, and that was the first time that I thought, man, that was my first client, and I was like, I really like this. And then one thing led to another, and from a job, things are percolating elsewhere. Hey, can you help me with this? Hey, can you help me with this project or that project? And I was like, yeah, let me get that experience and do that. As it relates to TV, it is a glamorous job sometimes, but like I said earlier, and I didn't change careers because of the schedule. It was just happened to be one of the byproducts of it, that I can work from home some days. Some days I go downtown. I have an area I can work in the financial district. There's an area I can work in River North. I have one of my best clients in River North. And so that's very convenient. And so what I do now is I try to stagger it, where I try to go downtown just maybe like twice a week, but then I'll just stack up the whole day with meetings with clients, with prospective clients, people I need to meet, business development for Tech CXO, and other Rob Johnson communications clients. And so I'll just put in a 10 or 12-hour day, and try to get all that accomplished. And the interesting thing about communications consultant, anybody that's a consultant knows you have to go out there and do the work. But if you spend one day doing the work, then the next day you have to work on business development so you can get the next work. So it's like you sort of try to juggle, what's going on with doing the work and going and finding the next thing. So it's a totally different rhythm. I'm still getting used to it, but I do like being able to have flexibility in my schedule. I get to spend a lot more time with my family. I get to take Jaden to hockey practice. I never was able to do that before, working nights. And so there's, everything has its good and its bad. So I'm not going to sit here and say, oh, it's perfect. It's, this. I'm just saying there are a lot of good things going on with that and it. And I really like being able to help people. And I really like helping people get better. Watch them start. Let's say media training, for example. I'm going to do a media training with some folks tomorrow, and it's going to be interesting to see the way they start off the day and the way they end the day, and the things that we go through to prepare them to be better communicators if they were to get interviewed by the media.
Speaking of media, a lot of people have asked questions, so I'm going to bring these questions to you. Let's start. What a news producer or a station is looking for in a story to feature in their newscast, radio stations or radio, besides it leads, it bleeds news story. What is the expectation from a person who is either promoting a product or probably like, hey, I just want to get on television, or this is an interesting story, I want somebody to know about this?
Well, I think what you have to do when you're pitching stories is you have to understand, why is it important to the community? What's interesting, what's unique, what's newsworthy about this particular, whether it's a product, whether it's a story, this person, because they're so interesting. Why are they interesting? What makes them unique? And I always find that the best stories, the best pitches, are not just the who, what, when, where, and why, but it's also, why would my viewers care about it, or my listeners, or my readers? If I'm in online journalism or newspaper, why would we care about that? And I think if you're somebody pitching a story, if you and this is part of what I'm doing now too. Part of what I do is PR and trying to get the word out there about. And so this is a challenge that I have. Why are news stations why are the content producers of this day and age, and it's not just TV, radio, and newspaper, it's far beyond that. There's so much online, as you know. Why are they going to care about that? And how am I going to pique their interest where they say, gosh, I want to go interview that person. I want to go cover that story. It's I think it's finding that thing about connecting with the audience. Why is my audience going to care about that story? And if you can answer that question in a press release, or whether you're doing a face-to-face pitch or whether you're doing it, email or whatever, if you can explain that, I think that you'll have greater success than just the boilerplate, like who, what, when, where, why.
Let's say I have a book and wanted to talk about it on a station. I'm not getting any type of buzz. However, I send everyone a copy, including you, Rob. So
Oh, I had this problem.
right.
I know this problem.
Every station a copy. How can I stand out from others who send a book to a station? Or
that's really hard, because really the only place that you're going to get an interview is on a morning show. The only place that can accommodate that kind of question and answer session is a morning show, because these morning shows go 2.5, 3, 4, 5. GNs in Fox are like 5-6 hours. It's crazy, but they have time to fill. They have content to fill that time. I would be reaching out to those stations that have the most time to fill. But also, if you're promoting a book, what's interesting about the book? Is it the story? Is it the fact you're a local author? Is there a particular storyline in that book that's going to resonate with the viewers or the listeners of its radio? And I think you have to, again, ask those questions. Yeah, why me? I'm the author. What's going to make it more interesting than the other 30 book pitches they're going to get this week? Because they're going to get them. I rember sitting in the break room in the newsroom, and there would just be book after book after book sitting there, and they were pitched to different people, and a lot of times nobody even looked at them. Because there were so many of them. So you need to have a good, publisher, PR agent, whatever the case is, explain to people why it is important, why people want to know about that. And I wrote, and what he does to come back from it. And it was aimed at educating young people about concussion awareness, because I'm on the Concussion Legacy Foundation board, and I've dedicated a lot of my time and effort to that work. And I think it's very important for people to understand, not just the kids, but their parents and grandparents, to understand that if you have an active child, you should care about concussion awareness. And they're like, oh, that won't happen to my kid, until it does. And then it does. And like, I need to learn more about this, what's going on. And so I would always go give speeches, and I would educate people. I would do news stories about this. But writing the book to a 7 to 12-year-old, which is what the target age group was meant to educate kids and let them see that it's okay if you get this, and you can come back from it, and you can be even better, and you're not alone in it. The problem was, concussion awareness is something that a lot of people don't want to hear about, because I sadly think that a lot of people out there, parents and guardians and that sort of thing, don't want to know about it, because they're like, well, that's inconvenient. If I don't know about it, I'm not responsible for the information that I need to have. And I think that's not the way to go about it. So that's a very, through the side door answer to your question about how to get a book published. It's really tough. To get a book promoted on a station, just getting a book published and getting people to be interested in it, if you don't have some major publishing house behind you, is an uphill battle.
A lot of people say it could be the cover of the book, maybe the name sounds familiar, that will speak to a producer. Will that help? What would be like?
I think everybody's going to end up, they're going to read the press release that comes with the book, and they're probably going to read the back page of the book. What's the book about? I don't necessarily think, oh gosh, that was a really colorful. I'm going to put it on the news because that was a really colorful, front of the book, cover of the book. I think it has to do with, why would people care when you're interviewing the author about that book, and what it brings to the table, and the way it's going to speak to the audience.
How to network with a person who works at a news station or a radio station, like a news person or a producer? How to network with them? A lot of people say, I don't know this person from Adam. Why should I put them on my show? Why should I put this individual on them? How to network with them if you're the PR guru, Rob? How they don't know Roman Morrow
Listen,
or the Drive at Five. How can I network with a producer to say we got to have him?
I would say this, and I appreciate it more now than ever, because when I did the news, everybody knew what I did, and I wouldn't network for networking's sake, because everybody knew what I did, and so I wouldn't always be, like, oh, I've got to go to this or I got to go to that. Now that I'm doing communications consulting, I look for opportunities to network with other people all the time. And what I would say, if you are in this space, this journalism, entertainment, whatever the case may be, that you need to find opportunities where they have a journalism event. It may be an NABJ event. I'm sure that that's what you do, to go and network with other people. And hey, I do this. What do you do? Do you have a card? It's great opportunity. I would say if you want to make inroads with those kinds of people, those producers or those decision makers, you need to find those opportunities. I know that people used to go to the local Emmy Awards and be like, I'm just going to go and network, which, okay. But that's a networking event because who's going to be there. And the different journalism groups, the Society of Professional Journalists or whatever the local journalism groups are that are going to get together. And if that's what you're interested in, that's what you should do. And like the NAHJ, the NABJ, that sort of thing. Those are great networking opportunities. And I've been to those events before to support people that I worked with. And if you're a journalist, it's networking gold.
I remember Art Norman texts me, and he's like, Roman, I want you to come at the Christmas party. It's been years since I saw you at the Christmas party.
Art's a great guy.
Yeah, I know. And I said, yeah, Art, I will be there. And then I had a final, and he grills me every single time. So is it good to send a news anchor, a reporter, a person that works at a station, a press release, or is it just the producer? A lot of people send you stuff because you're on the 10 p.m. newscast. Yeah. You're the main anchor. Is it wise for someone to send you a press release about this event or that event, or a reporter this event? To me, working behind the scenes, I say that's kind of a middleman.
Well, it is, except for the fact, I think you have to keep a couple of things in mind. If you're a PR agent and you want to get your word out, you're probably going to say, I'm going to send it to everybody I know. I don't think sending something to 25 people at the same station is going to be helpful. I think what is helpful, and this is what I've done now in my PR world, is like to familiarize myself with decisions about what things are going to get covered. A planning producer, per se, the person who's sort of the clearinghouse for all the press releases, and what are we going to cover tomorrow? They'll plan a day ahead. Oh, here's what's going on at 9 a.m., 10 a.m., 11 a.m., 1 p.m., that sort of thing. I would find out who those people are and make sure that they were on my email blast every time, because they're the ones that make those decisions about how things are going to be covered. And also, if you have a couple other decision makers in the newsroom that are helping shape that, and it's not always easy to know. So that's why you need to go network with people. That's why you need to go say, hey, if I was going to send a press release, how would who would I send it to at your station? That's why it's important to know who it is. As it relates to sending an email to Rob Johnson, I think it's useful, especially if people have a relationship with somebody. If you have a relationship with a reporter or an anchor or whoever, a producer, and you can say, hey, I think this is really good. I think you should take a look at it. Back in the day, I would get 50 or 100 emails a day pitching stories. And I bet 2 or 3 of them, I would say, oh gosh, that's pretty interesting. So it could be either, hey, I'm going to forward this on to the investigative unit, or I'm going to forward this on to the planning producer. Somebody, connected with me in some way. It could have been the content of the story. It could have been, hey, I know Rob, let me see if I can get him interested in this. And not everybody's going to do this. So I don't want to suggest that everybody's going to jump at it, anchors and reporters. But I always like putting people together. I like doing it to this day. I like being able to have somebody who has a need here and somebody who has a need there. And if I can help get the work and do it, then I'm going to do it. So a lot of times I get a story pitch and I'd say, That's not really for me, but that might be for the investigators, or that might be for somebody else. I'm going to forward it onto them. I don't necessarily know exactly what would happen. I wouldn't always follow up with them like, hey, what did you do with that? But I think that there's two ways to do it. If you're trying to get the word out, I think you really need to find out who the decision makers are in the newsrooms, the planning producers, or whatever their title is. And then also, if you have a personal connection, you can say, hey, it's me. I got this thing. Thought you might want to know about it. Wanted to give it to you. You know, I wanted to give it to you first because I know you. Wink, wink.
In your opinion, you talked about this earlier. What goes in a press release besides the who, what, when, where, and how? And to get some type of media coverage. I mean, a lot of people say, okay, this is the who, what, when, where, and how, but there's always a little in that release. What is that in that would say, okay, I know the who, what, when, where, and how, and why we need to cover it, but surprise me.
You don't want to miss this. What you don't want to miss this. You need to add aside from the basics that need to be sprinkled through there, as you just pointed out, you also need to explain to the person to whom you are releasing the press release why you don't want to miss this. People are very competitive in the media landscape, right? And they don't want to get beaten on a story, or they don't want to not be there when something else good is happening. I think you need to add here's why you want to be there. Let's put it more positively, not in the negative, but in the positive. Here's why you don't want to miss this tomorrow. Because when you show up, you're going to get X, Y, and Z. And I can't tell you specifically what that is because we're talking hypothetically here. But I think that it's that is the sort of, I don't want to say secret sauce because they still might not cover it. But that's the thing. If you're in the front row with your cameras rolling and a reporter there, if that's necessary, I think that's kind of the, I'm not saying the lost art of it, but I think that's the thing, the difference, the thing that can be the difference maker.
What you think is missing in today's news?
I think, there's so much emphasis, and it's tough though, because I've been on the other side of it for so long, and people say, why don't you report more positive news? And the answer was because if you put the salacious thing on, or the thing that was negative or bad or whatever, for some reason people watch that. But for as long as I was in the business, and even now that I'm not in it, people are like, why do they cover all the bad news? Well, it's easy and cheap to cover. It's like, oh, hey, there was a shooting on the south side or whatever. Let's go. We got our crew. We go. Get on the air in 20 minutes. It's easy. After tonight, you won't hear another word about it. There's not going to be a follow-up, that sort of thing, unless it's a bigger story. I don't think covering crime, and I don't think covering, weather when it's not really weather, are very good things to do. But, people that were above my pay grade made those decisions. I think what news is missing is interesting content. And I know there's a lot of stations out there that are trying to come up with that. Okay, here's the story. But how do we put our personal stamp on it? How do we make it more interesting? How do we make it more relatable? How do we make it how do we humanize it? Because my thing, and I mentioned it earlier, is I think if you can tell a people story, if you can tell a story about someone who will resonate with your audience, then you have succeeded that day. And I think there's not enough of that. But I also know that people are trying to do it. So I don't want to just sit here and say, oh, if it bleeds, it leads, and this and that, and crime and destruction and mayhem and whatever. Those don't really have a lot of value as stories, because the minute you say where it is, if you say it's in Maryville, Indiana, there was something bad that happened. And unless it was something really unusual, the rest of the viewing audience could be like, so what? It's in Maryville. I don't live there. I'm not. Why do I care about it? And the best stories are the ones where you have the most people that would care about them. But to me, I think news can always do a better job of telling those stories, not just the featurey, fluffy, whatever stories, but the ones that have good content, somebody that's making a difference, somebody that's unique. And I know, unlike a lot of people who don't think they're trying, I know they're trying to do those kinds of stories because they realize that that's what people want to see, and they don't want to see all the cheap crime and things that don't resonate.
millennials think posting on social media and having huge following on social media will give them coverage. Not the old way of sending media releases to everyone. Can the social media presence give you the coverage from a major media outlet?
Oh yeah, because that's where everybody's going now. Everybody's going toward, everything's the reason that the TV business sees the numbers dwindling is because social media and other outlets have filled up that space, and they're very competitive. And so if you're a TV station right now, you're sitting there thinking, how do we get to those younger people? The thing is, they don't watch TV. So it's kind of a fool's errand because, if you're under 35, 30 years old, they don't watch TV. But they're on social media and you want to be where they are. TV used to be, hey, it's 10 o'clock. I'm going to sit at the top of the mountaintop and tell you what you need to know. And now the relationship with consumers and people that are news media purveyors it's more of a give and take. It's like, where are they? What do they care about? We need to go do that story. We need to. So I would say social media, maybe more so than a press release, certainly more than a press release, is more impactful, especially if you can generate buzz and you can say, hey, you don't want to miss it. That's what social media has in abundance. The thing I said just a second ago about you don't want to miss it. You got to be here.
You know what? I skip the media man and everybody. I'll just post my media release on Facebook. Is that helpful, or Instagram or LinkedIn? This is,
how big is your following? If you're an influencer, if you have, thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of people that you can send a message to immediately, is it more useful than putting it on one of the other mediums that we're talking about? Absolutely. But how many people have that kind of influence? If you don't have that sort of influential muscle, then I think that the traditional way is still one of the routes you should be taking. If you're not an influencer, if you don't have that big, following where everybody's hanging on your every word and you can just send it out and everybody sees it immediately. I think that if you're not one of those people, you still need to respect the old way that things have been done, even though, social media it's the wave of the future. Everybody knows that. The problem is a lot of these places who are, a lot of these media companies who are trying to follow the shifting, winds of change haven't figured out how to monetize it yet. They haven't figured out how to make money on that. Or they'll say, go to our website, and people will say, some websites people want to go to. Other websites, if you don't have great content, people are like, we don't want to go there. We want to go to Facebook, or we want to go to Snapchat, or we want to go to Instagram or Twitter, or whatever the case may be.
Let's say I have a huge following. The Drive at 5 has a huge following.
You don't have a huge following?
No, I don't.
Don't say that.
Well, Intellectual Radio does. Have a huge following. But let's say, how can you get a huge following? There are some people on Facebook that you're like, wow, that person got 5,000 people. Whoa. But here's the thing. You can have the people, but you don't get them to do anything.
Yeah.
And what's the price with that? You can have a huge following, but if you don't convince them to do anything, then what?
Well, I'm not sure that you're there to convince people to do things, because I think a lot of what social media is, hey, look at me, look what I'm doing, look at my life, look what I'm doing. And it may, sometimes I know people feel like it's exclusionary, like, hey, I was doing this, I was at this party, you weren't. The reason I have 5,000 followers on Facebook and another 4,000 or so on my other Facebook page, my personality page, is because of what I did. Because I was in the news business. And what I've tried to do since I've been out of this business is still create demand, still let people know, here's what I'm doing, here's what here's where I went, here's what I did, try to make it authentic. Although, I think that's part and parcel, though, a bit of social media. It's not going to be entirely authentic. It's what you want people to see. And so how do you get a bigger following? I don't know the answer to that, because on some social media platforms I don't have a very good following, and on others I have a really good following. On LinkedIn I have for somebody that never really spent much time on LinkedIn until 8-9 months ago, I got like 5,800 people, which I think is pretty good for LinkedIn. But on some, they're different platforms for sure. But I would just tell people, if you want to have you always need to have something to say, and sometimes there's a fine line between keeping people informed on what you're doing and being over the top, or keeping people informed on what you're doing and posting very, very, very infrequently. I think you need to continue. You need to have an engagement you need to engage with people, and that's how you probably build up momentum on social media. But I'm by no means have I figured it out perfectly. I'm not going to suggest that at all.
Everyone wants to be on a major station, and at times they get upset because they're not getting the type of media coverage needed for their product. What you say to those people who are not getting the type of media coverage from the major stations, however, they're getting media coverage elsewhere? Let's say the Drive at 5 here. Yeah, it's the Drive at 5, but that's not.
Well, what is your primary focus here at the Drive at 5? Is it being informational, or is it being journalism? And I would tell you that if people are trying to get a product covered, that's not what the news does. That's not what stations do. If you want to go buy ad time and you want to go buy some commercials and tell everybody about your product, that's the thing to do. But I mean, TV stations bend over backwards and have for forever on not shilling for somebody, for lack of a better term. Hey, I've got this product, everybody needs to know about it, I'm going to go to all the news media. If it's really unique, if there's some local angle that makes it unique, that is something that people will care about, maybe it's a food product that is, I mean, like, what is like Garrett's popcorn? They get free coverage all the time. Chicago, it's this, it's that, there's demand for it, whatever. But that's how you send out the press releases. But you can't say, here is the best widget in Chicago, and you got to find out about it tomorrow at our 11 o'clock press conference, because nobody's going to cover that unless there's something very unique about it. So when you start talking about products for them, the news that's not really what it is. That's why some of these other places, like maybe some radio stations or maybe some ideological formats, they're not news. We're information. We're entertainment. That's different. You're going to a television station and wanting people to jump through hoops to cover your product launch. You're not going to get it.
Do you think it's wise for a PR person to say, I am going to get all that I want from a radio station or the smaller station, because I have several stories on Channel 9, Channel 7, CBS, WGN. Therefore, I don't need what they call low-level stations, despite developing a relationship with them. What you say?
Listen, I mean, that's simple math. So you're going to go when you're trying to get people when you're trying to publicize something, you're going to go to the places, you're probably going to start on the morning show, no matter what it is. TV stations, morning show, going to have a better chance to do an interview. Let me go with them. First, second, third, fourth. That's how you're going to do it. You're going to send it out to everybody. But when people come back and want to do something, you're going to prioritize it based on that, or you're going to prioritize it based on what the readership is of a online paper, or an actual newspaper, or the morning radio show that has the most listeners. You're going to prioritize. You're just going to do that. So if you have a chance to get the most people, most viewers, listeners, readers to listen to what you had to say, that's how you're going to prioritize it. So I would never say, oh, don't go to that one. If number 4 says, hey, we got a bunch of airtime, can you come in at 9 o'clock and talk about the event or whatever you're publicizing, you're going to say yes, because that's the way it works. If everybody wants it, then that's a great problem to have. It's a rare problem to have, but it's a great problem to have. So I think no matter if you're a PR agent, you're always prioritizing where can I go to have the most people learn about this.
For what they post on social media, along with their clients, who products they want to feature on a news or radio station.
Be careful in what way?
Let's say you post something. Let's say you're a PR person, you're enjoying yourself, and I'll just say you're enjoying yourself. You're at a strip club. Would you post that on social media? You're at a bar, you're drinking, but you want to set a positive image. Do you want to post that on? And then the next day you want to be taken serious.
Seriously. Listen, this is the whole quandary with social media, right? That you do these things, you post at your own peril. And if it was somebody who is at a strip club and they're trying to be credible and they're having a product, not only themselves, but for their client, that's just foolish. So I would say, if you've got things that you like to do on your own time that don't square with the brand that you're trying to convey for yourself and for your clients, you better watch out.
Tell us something we know about communication that people should know about communication.
They don't know about communication, but they should know. I'll say this, and because this comes up a lot in the clients that I meet with, or the would-be clients that I meet with. Let's say you're in a communications business, or let's say that you're in a position where that skill is very important. And I can't tell you how many times I hear it. I don't know that this is like breaking news necessarily, but I hear people say all the time, you'd be surprised at somebody who's in a major communications role, like a CEO, who's got to communicate everything to the folks in the company and to the shareholders and to the public and the media, how little they know what they're doing. So I think people would be surprised to know, based on talking about my clients necessarily, but I'm hearing people say all the time, and that's when they become would-be clients, when they say, boy, they really could use somebody to help them communicate their message both internally and externally. So I don't think that's I bet you didn't know this about communications, but this is what I've learned going through my journey about how people a lot of times, and I'm not painting everybody with a broad brush, because there are some great communicators out there who are in leadership roles in companies who do a fabulous job. I'm just saying, I hear more times than not, boy, we would be so much better if we could communicate our message.
Tell us something we don't know about Rob Johnson. You play hockey. You have a wonderful family. You're an author.
Let's see. That was going to be one of them, because not enough people read the book. I was going to say, I bet you didn't know I was an author. Let me think about that. People know about the charity work. What don't they know about me? I love to take naps. How about that? I love to take naps.
Period.
I'm not 8 hours a day taking a nap, but a lot of times I'm waking up at night thinking about all the stuff I got to do and this and that. And sometimes I'll go in my office at 5, 6 in the morning. I'm like, man, I got to bang out this. I got to do that. And so getting in a quick nap or meditating. I like to meditate too, because it calms me down. It's like 20 minutes, gets me calm. Little noisemaker on my app on my phone, and 20 minutes of that, and I kind of come back and I'm calm and I'm focused. And that one, yeah, huge Blackhawks fan, huge hockey fan. My son plays high level hockey for Team Illinois. He plays AAA hockey for Team Illinois on the U14 team. He's really good. He does a great job. And a lot of our vacation time trips are going on these hockey weekends with him. For instance, we're going to Connecticut this weekend for a big tournament there with some of the best teams in America. And so we're going to leave Thursday. We're going to be Monday, and we do travel a lot for hockey. And so, and we love the Blackhawks. Season ticket holders, know a lot of the folks in that organization. I count a lot of them as friends, and it's our thing.
Is there a book about communication in the works for you? Because you're a wealth of information, as a lot of people know, about the communication business, about marketing, promotion, and stuff. You're going to put pen to paper?
Am I going to write one?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would say this about my new career. I would have to go out there and accomplish a whole lot more than what I've accomplished before I write a book about this, So I feel like it's a work in progress. I feel like I have a lot to share with people, a lot of information, be useful. But as I go on this journey and I get more experience and I get more clients and the clients are more diverse and I help them solve problems and we have success in solving those problems, I think then maybe at some point I could say, yeah, I'm ready to write a book. But right now I'm just doing the work and having fun with it and enjoying, this new path that I'm going down.
Rob, don't be a stranger to the Drive at 5. Tell people what.
I won't listen. I love this kind of, back and forth and being able to sit here and just share ideas and kind of have an informal discussion about things. And so, anytime you invite me on, I'm coming. So yeah, it's great to see you again, my man.
You see, he's gleaning over there. I mean,
yeah.
So tell people how they can get a hold of you.
All right. So I have Rob Johnson Communications going on. It's www.rj47llc.com. And they can reach me at Rob Johnson at rj47llc.com. And that's the best way to reach me. And I field emails all the time, and people have reached out on so many different ways. They're supportive. They're inquiring about what I can do to help them, to have me represent them, as a client. And so that's the best way to get a hold of me.
Sharon Ingram, Deborah, former WGN producer, Arlene Irves.
Oh yeah.
Who else?
Arlene from we served together at ABC.
I'm trying to think of the names. They practically producers at Evans, hoping to tell you hi.
Oh, thank you.
And Donetta. Told me to tell you hi. And also, I think I'm missing a couple of others, but forgive me. You'll be back.
I'll be back. Listen, we have a lot of good friends still there, and it was a great experience. And I've, listen, 21 years in Chicago has been great. We're going to have many more here, and who knows where the journey takes you, but I'm excited, and it's turning out right.
All right, don't be a stranger. Thanks to Earl Winfrey, our executive producer.
Nice
Wanda, who's behind the scenes. Next week, in the flesh, the one and only Teresa Griffin. Next week on the Drive at 5.